Just in case you guys think that Valerian and Dreamfyre didn't have a chance to get it on, here's another opportunity. Rhaena is about to run away to Fair Isle. She switches her daughters, kind of like how Vhagar changes sex, right? It's out of necessity. We're not switching our daughters for fun. We're doing it out of necessity so that the Targaryen line can continue, so that our family survives. That's why Rhaena's doing it, for her daughter's survival. If Vhagar would change sex, it would be to bring other dragons into the world. Maybe the laws of balance with magic dictate that, hey, gets to be dragon making. You know, there needs to be a balance. There needs to be a certain amount born. I don't know. Well, Vhagar changes sex. Vhagar, who was written by Visenya, was a woman. Vhagar now changes into a male out of necessity, but it's also like a blood betrayal, right?
By blood betrayal, I'm referencing the Yeti myth about the Amethyst Empress. Basically, her little brother usurped her throne, and it was such a big deal. This was such a blood betrayal that it ushered in the long night. Maybe this blood betrayal is enough for the magic to shift and a dragon to change its sex. That's it. That's all I'm saying. Maybe.
It also signifies that the men are empowered. Because at this point, Rhaena's running for her life. The men are empowered. So much power that she has to switch her daughters. So it makes sense that at this time, Vhagar changes into a man. Rhaegar was, a soft, sensitive boy until he read that he had to be a warrior, and then he changed his destiny. He changed his course of action and became a warrior that could battle Robert Baratheon for an hour. Can you do anything for an hour? They fought in their heavy mail and chain and armor for an hour. Rhaegar read something and he became someone who could go toe-to-toe with Robert Baratheon. Rhaegal's dad, Vhagar, would have a similar personality too. Vhagar seems like this dragon that's a child of destiny, because Vhagar starts it all. Like, Vhagar is part of the big three: Balerion, Vhagar, and Meraxes, that conquered Westeros. And then Vhagar ends it. Vhagar is part of the Dance of the Dragons. So many dragons were killed, and something happened. Something was messed up. The balance was shifted with magic too, because why? Like, okay, if the dragons died, but why couldn't any new dragon? Why couldn't any of the eggs hatch? Vhagar ended it. Not only metaphorically, Vhagar, one of the most important battles, Aemond and Daemon at the God's Eye. Vhagar's death pretty much signified the end of the war. Why? Because Vhagar was the biggest dragon. Vhagar was, from start to finish, a pivotal part of the Dance of the Dragons. So now we're at the point in the story where Rhaena gets married for a third time. And that's with Andrew Farman. Andro. This time though, Dreamfyre isn't around anyone that she could procreate with. This time though, Dreamfyre isn't around anyone that she could procreate with. The girl dry. The girl dusty. So for sure, we know that Dreamfyre laid at least one clutch of eggs at Fair Isle. The small folk wouldn't shut up about it. I don't know, but so does that mean we don't need a volcano? If Dreamfyre is laying clutches, and then there was a clutch at the wall, they're saying, a clutch at Winterfell, do you not need a volcano? But Fair Isle is an island. It could be a volcanic island, and maybe volcanoes are inherently magic, or conducive to magic. We know this because when Rhaenyra went to Lannister land, Lyman and Jocasta straight up tried to pull a Karth and tried to take her egg. So yeah, Rhaenyra's like, I can't trust anybody. She ends up at Dragonstone. This is when Jaehaerys, her little baby water, Jaehaerys baby bubble, baby papa, you want your blankie? So that's when he was in power. And Rhaena was not impressed. She was like, alright, what else? But here's the thing. The eggs that Dreamfyre laid at Fair Isle hatched on Dragonstone. So they can't be Dany's eggs since they hatched. Now Rhaena is in Dragonstone, Queen of the East or whatever. So Dreamfyre has access to the dragons that are on Dragonstone. And we know that's where dragons like to be. We've got Balerion and Vhagar who are around. We have the wild dragons. We have hatchlings.
And we also have Alyssa Farman on the island. Ooh.
Alyssa Farman is special and important too, right? So the name of her ship is Sun Chaser. And it's interesting because what chases the sun? Sun Chaser. And it's like, I think it's the moon, right? Because the moon chases the sun, but will never catch it. And that's how you're in perpetual chasing. Because if you're a sun chaser, you're not you're not someone who actually caught it. Most of you found me through David Lightbringer's video. He actually has so many videos that go into detail about any metaphor you can think of about the sun and the moon. If you're not following David Lightbringer, go and check out his channel. You also have like Dany and Drogo, who call each other my sun and stars, moon of my life. So it's very interesting. And of all of the names you could name your ship, fast ship, blue ship, I don't know. You can name your ship anything. She chose Sun Chaser. But I definitely think George put that there for a reason. What's the sigil of the Farman house? So we know that Vhagar changed sex just to fulfill prophecy to father Rhaegal, because Vhagar knew that it was time, that this had to happen. Vhagar and Rhaegal, they seem to embody like the magic of the Targaryens. They seem to always be involved with some sort of prophecy or even like metaphor. Vhagar has also had a lot of riders. Vhagar's riders are bold. Visenya, Balon, Laena, and Aemon. They're actually kind of like 4 random people, but they do have bold, like that, like adjective in common. Balon punching Balerion on the snout. Visenya, enough said. Laena, bold, definitely, and Aemon. They're not only bold, they're also kind of misunderstood, right? They're always involved in these like bittersweet love stories. And it seems like their riders are prone to being kinslayers. If you believe that Visenya is a kinslayer, Aemon, Laena for killing her unborn child on the show. Balon, probably not. But hey, 3 out of 4. So you know that saying, when a Targaryen is born, the gods flip a coin. And they're crazy or sane. What if the coin has 3 heads? Because the dragon has 3 heads. This is my theory. This is Nettles' theory. So the dragon has 3 heads. First of all, it seems like the only true crazy Targaryen was Baelor. Everyone else was just put into horrible circumstances. The dragon has 3 heads, the coin has 3 heads. So you're either flipping an alpha, a beta, or a sigma. We're not describing people. People are either sane or crazy. Dragons, alphas are like the weapons. Balerion is the leader, not the follower. Drogon, even from a freaking egg, bigger, standing out more, calling out to Dany maybe. Most of the fans of the show only know Drogon's name. They cannot tell you Viserion or Rhaegal. No. They know Drogon because Drogon's alpha. Drogon put himself out there and said, I'm the one. So the dragon has an alpha head. How many Daemon and Maegor archetypes do you need for me to prove that? These people, they never played. Not as children. They never played a day in their life. They were about that life. They didn't play with it. Okay, Aedes was playing around. Aeon 2 was playing around. People like Drogo, they never played. They're not playing with you. The second head of the dragon is the beta. They're weak, but they're willful. I mean, Viserys was weak, but he was willful. To be able to stand there and say the things that he said, I think that took some courage. Oh, it's the worst thing to be. Oh my God, beta, that's an insult. How dare you call me that? No, everyone can't be an alpha. If everyone's an alpha, then there's no alpha. Because everyone's the same. Who are they leading? No one's following them because everyone else is leading. Someone has to be a beta. Someone has to like fill these roles in society. We can't just have alpha dragons. We think in Valyria, there are many, many, many different types of dragons. Imagine looking up in the sky and instead of seeing like a flock of birds doing the flying bee, it's a flock of dragons, 1,000 dragons doing the flying tesseract because they're not basic. They wouldn't be doing the flying bee. On Valyria, they would have like different dragons. They'd have war dragons. Those are the dragons that have like all these horns and scales, and they're probably bred to breathe the hottest fire. And there was probably dragons for leisure. Maybe they were like faster, thinner, and they could take passengers. And they could, hey, you want to take a boat to lease, or you want to go to lease on Dragonback? You trying to go to Karth? You trying to go on a cruise? These were the real Boeing 747s, right? Beta dragons are needed. And so I think a beta dragon would be a dragon like Quicksilver, a dragon like Viserion. Someone has to be the dragon that nuzzles Dany. I'm a beta. I follow orders. We need that. The dragon has the third head, which is like a Sigma or an Omega, very similar. So these dragons could be an alpha. Listen, they could be an alpha if they wanted to, but they just don't want to. They want to sing songs, write poetry, play the harp. They want to do other things, like Vermithor. Vermithor is big. Vermithor has horns. Vermithor, I think going off of looks, would have been a war dragon. What did Vermithor do? Fall in love with Silverwing. Vermithor, all he was known for is being curled up with Silverwing. He chose to fall in love, and he chose to kind of go like the Jaehaerys route. Jaehaerys, the old king, is that Sigma personality. He's not an alpha that comes into the room and like, everyone listen to me. He's the Sigma that comes into the room and everyone looks at him anyways, because he's interesting. The children of destiny. Their personalities are going to influence time and space, like Rhaegar. That's just my theory that the dragon has 3 heads. You guys can try this. It doesn't matter which dragon or which Targaryen, they all fit in these different categories. I would put Daenerys as a Sigma. I would put Jon Snow as a Sigma.
But wait! There's more!
So maybe the 3 eggs that Alyssa Farman stole weren't Dany's eggs. I mean, that could be a red herring. I mean, how many times have you been tricked in this series? Here, I just wanted to show off my knife. By the time I had my 3rd shot, I started playing with the knives. So yeah, there is a chance that everything I'm basing this off of is null and void because they're not those 3 dragon eggs. I still think Dreamfyre would be the mom. The record-breaking egg layer. It was her. Them not being Alyssa Farman's 3 eggs is not a problem. What that does though is open up the timeline for Dreamfyre to have more partners and more baby daddies. Those eggs had 200 years to get to Daenerys. Maybe Alyssa had 3 eggs, gave it to the Sea Lord of Bravos. Maybe she didn't. Maybe Illyrio was able to get 1 egg, and then 5 years he got another egg, and then 10 years later he gets another egg, and he has 3. And so he gives it to Daenerys. We don't know. They said the eggs came from Rashad. It's also another place that Alyssa supposedly went to. So that opens up Dreamfyre's sexual partner. Anything after 54 AC. 54 AC is around the time Alyssa Farman, being seen around Essos, like that's 54 AC. Alyssa Farman would have had to already have the eggs by 54 AC to be giving them away in Essos in 54 AC. So what does that mean? It means that Pussy Popper Dreamfyre could have had kids with Cyrax. Remember? Cyrax is yellow, Dreamfyre's blue. Blue and yellow means green. That could be a Rhaegal combination. Sunfire. Dreamfyre was obviously in proximity to Sunfire. So that blue and yellow makes green combination. Vermithor is already kind of greenish. So Vermithor is a really good candidate. And of course, that Pussy Popper Dreamfyre could have had sex with literally any other dragon in that pit. Because Helena was in King's Landing, baby. Helena wasn't traveling. Helena wasn't doing anything. So Dreamfyre was there in King's Landing with all of the dragons in the dragon pit, maybe some of the dragons in Dragonstone at her disposal for her to get her freaked out. Like, we know this. This is what we've been learning about Dreamfyre, right? Is that she's a wild, wild bitch. Just like Rhaena. Just like Helena probably is on the inside if she was allowed to cultivate that with a mom like Alicent. Who knows? So you let me know in the comments if there's any other dragons that you think are better candidates to be the father. 200 years seems like a good enough time for the eggs to petrify and turn into stone.
Let's wrap up.
The deadbeat baby daddies that do not pay their child support, okay? Because Daenerys has to do everything on her own. Valerion is Drogon's dad. Quicksilver is Viserion's dad. And Vhagar is Rhaegal's dad. That's what I think. What do you think? Dreamfyre is a slut.